Welcome to the very first episode, the inaugural episode of A Business Space. And today I've got a guest who I really respect in business, respect as a person, got him with really well. I'll let the guest introduce himself because otherwise I'll sit here chalking shit and probably say something wrong. But I'll pass on to Danny Inman. Danny, thanks for joining me. Appreciate it. Give us, your elevator pitch on who you are and what you do.
Oh, principally anything related to property. So have a big property education community, although I hesitate to use the word property education because of the bad press it gets sometimes. More of an investment community of active investors that was created by accident off the back of almost 2 decades of everything property investment, from owning a letting agency that we no longer have, construction, sourcing deals for other parties, to now we've just done an £8 million development for new build houses. We're about to finish a 27 unit apart hotel in Harrogate that will be our fourth, and everything in between, small, big, everything in property. So anything that's related to property, that's largely been me.
Brilliant. So I've known you a long time, and I've got to know your story. But for those people who maybe don't know it or don't know it in any detail, why property? Why did you get into property as a sector, as a niche? Was it by accident? Like, how did that all come about?
Most of the best things that have happened in my life have been complete accidents. And as you get a bit older, you don't believe in coincidences anymore. But I think, property was a complete accident. I was sent as somebody's plus one at the very last minute because their partner dropped out to one of the original property education seminars. So I was basically the last available person in their phone to give a free ticket to an event that I knew nothing. I knew nothing about property. I was complete loose end background. Signed professional rugby league when I was a teenager. Hated that. Didn't make sense to me to get your head bashed about for not too much money. And then went to university, did a civil engineering and advanced maths degree, did pretty well, graduate scholarship, and then realised I hated that as well. So when at the point that I got into property, or I got introduced to this training, I was a nutritional distributor, which also known as a takeaway delivery driver, basically.
And so you went to this event, and were you inspired by it? I know that you said it was one of the traditional sort of property events.
I mean, back then you didn't see all the sales pitch, and in hindsight now, looking back, they were doing everything to me, NLP, and I was completely on the end of a string, basically. But all I could see was people and numbers, and I was decent with people, and I understood numbers, so it just made principle sense to me, even though I was sat there with minus money, cash in hand, job delivering Chinese takeaways. They'd completely convinced me that I could be a success in property, and that people and numbers were the main thing that it took. And that was literally it. I was in a weird space in life at the time, and it actually gave me a little bit of hope, and I think that gave me something to attach to, and worked, obviously in hindsight, it's worked quite well. So
yeah, definitely. When you say you kind of started in property, so what was those first steps look like? What did you do? Because as you said, you didn't have any money.
Yeah.
How did you get going?
So the training was basically an initial 3-day training that was an introduction to more training, sales pitch, sales pitch, sales pitch. And I didn't even, like I said, I was completely oblivious to it. I was looking at the content and that resonated with me. And basically the training was the advanced training. We were sent, it was me and a son that was sent by a couple who'd done the further trainings previously. They'd obviously got value from it. They thought, right, let's send the son. Who can we send with the son? Partner originally, partner separation, right? Let's see who else is in the phone book. And in hindsight, they were complete angels, but the training, the advanced stuff was, I think it was 18 grand for one person or 20 grand for two people.
Right.
So basically it was like, okay, we're going to send the son. Do you want to do it for a couple of grand? We'll sponsor you. You can pay us back with, sourcing deals or whatever it was. And that's what I did. I got into deal sourcing, which is basically building portfolios for other people. I was deal sourcing before deal sourcing was a thing. Now it's massive in our space. But, back then there was no legislation, there was no regulation, no real policy. You just found someone a deal, you took a fee. And in hindsight, they did incredibly well because I probably sourced them 20 deals over 2 years for a couple of grand, which is a hell of an investment for them.
Yeah.
At the time, I thought, well, they've done me a real good favour here. But they did, obviously, and that's what I started with. I started sourcing for them, and then off the back of that, it was like, okay, the build needs managing. Who's going to do that? Okay, I'll work out a way to do that. I'll take a fee for that. And then it was lettings, and that was the start of a letting agency, a media letter that we had for 11 years. I sold in 2021. Did real well out of the sale in the end because we built it to a big business. But it literally started with managing their portfolio,
Wow.
and then them as the first investors. I think they had 15 to 20. We managed that in the lettings, and then we started to expand out to other investors, and that's. I didn't buy a property as a property investor for 18 months, basically. I was building portfolios for other people before I bought my first one.
Amazing. So I think, and I use this term loosely because I don't think it's necessarily true, but you would be probably what I'd describe as like a pure entrepreneur, where if you really had a normal job where you've gone in and worked at an office or anything like that. Have you done any of that stuff?
No, my graduate scholarship with Lang O'Rourke, a big engineering firm, I probably did 10 days and realised it wasn't for me. And it wasn't that I didn't know that I didn't want a job. It was that I knew I didn't want that job.
Right.
I never really went into one. Obviously, takeaway delivery driving,
Yeah.
you drive in your car, you get to eat a Chinese at the end of the night and you get cash in hand. It felt fucking amazing at 19, 20 kind of thing. I thought I was on top of the world.
Yeah.
But no, never really had a sit down here, here's your performance review, So I've not really been employed. Obviously, rugby wasn't employed. I've always earned money.
Yeah.
That was the thing. And obviously, everyone's got those entrepreneurial stories as kids. And I do have a couple through school and college where, Currell's Bakery, I used to go in just before the bell was about to ring, and I'd used to order all the cherry bakewells that were left, and they used to give me a discount for them to clean them up, and then I'd go and sell them at lunch. And then at college, it was the Von Dutch caps. I was ordering Von Dutch caps from China and distributing them out through college, ordering them at £5, £10 a piece and selling them at even 40, 50 quid back then, 20 years ago. So I've always had a bit of a side hustle, like wanting cash, as wanky as that term is, side hustle, but I've always wanted money. I think this comes from being from relative poverty. Like my family were not wealthy at all.
Yeah.
So I've always gone, money's important. I want money, I want money, I want money. And that's kind of been instilled in me, which I guess most entrepreneurs have a level of that drive.
100%. And how do you think not having a formal job has influenced the way that you manage people, that you work at the minute? Do you think it's helped? Do you think it's hindered?
Hindered, I think.
Yeah.
I'm a terrible manager.
Really?
Horrible. Yeah, quite impatient. And because I've not been in their shoes, I can't empathise.
Yeah.
So, I'm better now, but I try and delegate as much of it as possible to people who actually empathise a little bit more. I'm heavily internally motivated. Like getting up, getting out, working longer doesn't feel like an effort. For employees, they want everything recognised, and it's like, I'm in half an hour before I stay half an hour, and kind of as you forget as an entrepreneur to kind of go, actually, fair fucks to you, because most wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm not a great manager. I know I'm not a good manager. What I'm very good at is delegating what I'm not good at, and management is probably one of them.
Yeah, I think that core skill of being able to be self-aware enough to recognise your failures and then hire for it is probably the standout trait that I see in people who run great businesses.
Yeah, average business people try and be good at everything.
Yeah.
And they really struggle because they end up quite average at everything.
Yeah.
Like, what skills do you excel at? Just focus on them. Like, delegate everything else. I know Gary Vaynerchuk talks about it. A lot of people talk about it, but that really resonates with me. Like, I can sell and I can market. I can build relationships. I can't manage. I can't, I'm not going to sit down and give you this great review. I'm terrible at admin. I'm not particularly organised, but I'll bring in all the business and go, right, everyone else, you sort that out, okay?
You
clean up behind me. Like, I'm
Yeah.
going to create a storm here. I need people who are willing to clean up behind me. And I think I see the average businesses that don't grow because they don't want to invest in somebody who's going to do the cleanup or do the sales or whatever it is that you're not good at. It just keeps them small. It really does.
You say you're not organised, but one thing that I've always, and again, I spot this in lots of really good business people that I speak to, is you're quite consistent in things that you do.
Yeah.
Does that come from sport? Where do you think that comes from, that consistency?
Addictive personality to a degree, and
Okay.
habit formation. Because I've focused on the things that I'm good at, it's easy to do those things.
Got it.
As in, I don't feel it's particularly a battle. When it's harder to do a lot of the stuff you don't enjoy, and then you end up forgetting about it, and you okay. So yeah, habit formation I find quite easy. I don't really struggle with it. If I tell you I'm going to be somewhere, I'll be there. If I'm meeting you at a time, I'm usually there a few minutes early. Like showing up every day to something, posting every day. I don't find that difficult. I don't find it hard work.
Right.
But you know, there's that old adage of if you enjoy it, it doesn't feel like work. So I think when you're doing the things you enjoy, you're not looking for the recognition. Everybody wants recognition because I've really struggled through this shit that I don't enjoy. So you just crack on, yeah, just tick the box.
And what do you think some of the habits that you've formed over your entire career have been the ones that have served you best?
Responding to people, engagement is everything. Like, it astonishes me that people think they're too good to engage, and I know why people don't do it. It's because there's no immediate gratification from it. But because I've responded consistently for 20 years to people, like I believe so much in karma in business. Like people will come back to me today that I helped 5 or 6 years ago. I often get posts on my socials going, "You said this to me the other day, it changed my direction." I was like, I can't even remember saying it, but it's had an impact in them. So that when they think of property, when they think of investment, when they think of opportunity, they'll come back to me. And I've always probably believed in that long-term investment, slow payoff, and just consistently done it, responded. I'm 12,000 notifications a day on my phone. It blows up pretty much every day, and I rarely miss messages. Obviously, human, you do miss them.
Yeah.
Someone sends them at 11 and you wake up and you've got another 20 messages that are at the top of you. Like, so I do occasionally miss, but I would say 95% of my engagement gets a response.
Amazing. And one thing that I've noticed about you, which has made me feel shit because I don't do it enough, is you read a lot.
Yeah.
Where's that come from? How come that's such a big part of your life?
Well, I mean, if we were in therapy and we were talking about childhood traumas, it was an escape from childhood. I was Matilda as a kid.
Yeah.
So library was my place to go, and I'd go and read a load of books, which visibly to look at me, or visually to look at me, you wouldn't probably believe. But that was the way that I sort of buried myself as a kid. I used to go to the library, read a load of books. And then as I've got a little bit older, obviously studying all of that, there was a period where I didn't really read, and it was because I was reading the wrong things.
Right.
Like my degree and educate and all of that. I didn't really pattern with what I wanted to read. And then Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett spends 80 to 90% of his day reading. Charlie Munger was the same. And as soon as I saw there's the Warren Buffett, Becoming Warren Buffett on YouTube, whatever it is, the series there, I think it's 2-part series or whatever, and he literally sits there and reads all day, and I thought, well, he's the richest guy in the world. If he spends most of his day reading, there's probably a good indication that there's some value to it. But I consume a lot. And I go through patterns of what I'm reading, and I'm heavily into universe and karma and energies and that now, probably based on where I am in sort of life position. But yeah, obsessive with reading.
And is it fiction, non-fiction, both?
It's mostly non-fiction.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of fiction that's got non-fiction lessons behind it. So Celestine Prophecy, The Way of a Peaceful Warrior, things like that. There's stories, but there is probably an entrepreneurial and life lesson that sits behind the story. I can't just read an inane book that's like Mr. Grey or whatever these books are. Like, that doesn't resonate with me. Like, yeah. I need to feel like I'm learning something.
Interesting. And for you, when you look back at kind of your reading habits over, maybe, because I know you read that much that it's probably difficult to pinpoint one thing, but let's say the last 12 months, is there a particular book that you found really helpful or really valuable?
Yeah, but as I said, I go through stages. So people always ask me for book recommendations.
Yeah.
And I just go, well, what do you want from a book right now? Because I can tell you, I could read a book today and I could read a book in 18 months, 24 months' time. And depending where I am in my life or where my mindset is or what my business is up to or what I feel I need, one book might do nothing for me today and might actually change my life in 24 months' time. So this year, Way of the Peaceful Warrior and the Celestine Prophecy have like hit hard. Because things happening in life, like I'm now believing no coincidences, like I said earlier. I believe in energy and spirituality and all of that, and all of these things. And like these books have massively resonated. And then on a business level, I kept picking up books one after the other. And it was basically guys at my age going through major life events, very successful, challenges in business, but how they took it to the next level. And it was Barista to Billionaire, Andrew Robinson, Whatever It Takes by Stephen Schwartzman, Blackstone CEO and founder, Sam Zell, Am I Being Subtle Enough? And I just picked them up one after another by accident in practicality. And they all had exactly the same storyline that was like matching my position in life. And you're like, fucking hell, no coincidences. But they're all great reads if you're like, you've done quite well, you want to take it to the next level, you've got a load of challenges going on in your life at the minute. They're very relevant reads.
And for maybe someone who was not at that point, maybe a little bit chasing that, getting to where they're doing quite well, maybe on the start, earlier in the journey, I wouldn't say start, but earlier in the journey, is there anything that you'd recommend to them?
Yeah, I mean, High Performance Habits, Brendan Burchard, anything by Benjamin Hardy, 10x is easier than 2x, who not how, Gap and the Gain, anything. Benjamin Hardy is my favourite practical business author by a long way. He's phenomenal. So he writes really well in a way that's practical, that you can take action off the back of. So yeah, anything Benjamin Hardy, I'd definitely recommend.
Brilliant. People always ask in podcasts around business, like, what's the best piece of business advice you got? So I'm going to flip it on his head. What's the worst piece of business advice you ever had? And how did you manage to realise that it was bad? Because sometimes the worst of business advice I got, I didn't realise was bad for like 2 years.
Yeah.
And then realised actually this was shit advice and I shouldn't have done it. And that was that I should stay in my lane. I should focus on the thing that I was really good at and not look anywhere else. And whilst it sounds like conceptually it's a good piece of advice, actually it limited my ability to find things that I was passionate about.
The problem with good advice is that it is bad advice to exceptional people.
Yeah.
And I found that. So that in property we talk about shiny penny syndrome, and we talk about like don't take too much risk too early. The best time to take a lot of risk is quite early.
Yeah.
Like
less to lose.
Ironically. And you know, the whole that deal's too big for you, you're not ready for that yet. Actually, there are some exceptional people that can do exceptional things quite quickly.
Yeah.
You know, Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook quite young, and it was a pretty decent level of risk. And, you know, I do think there is an element of you've got to tailor advice to the person that you're giving it to.
Yeah.
Because the generic advice works for the majority, but not everybody. So, yeah, probably for me was similar to you. Stay in your lane. Don't do that deal. You're scaling too quickly. You're scaling too early. I'm like, well, that's probably right for most people, but I think I'm exceptional.
Yeah.
Like, I think I'm capable of taking that risk. I'm comfortable with taking that risk. I will do the work that's required. If you're talking to Joe Bloggs, who hasn't got the contacts, hasn't got maybe the financial backing, doesn't have access to the same quality of deals, it's probably the right advice. But for me, it was pretty poor. Like, and then you look further down the line from the person who's giving you the advice, and you go, okay, there's a reason you're at that level.
Yeah.
Because you are above me right now, but you're not that far above me for 20, 25 years on. And
they've stayed there for a while.
Stayed at that level. Yeah. They basically, and I think a lot of it's projection, isn't it? They're projecting the risks that they wish they took and going, no, I didn't take those risks, so I can justify it by telling you not to take them, and look at me, everything's fine.
Yeah.
And that for some, that might be fine.
Yeah.
But I think clipping somebody's wings and tailoring their ambition to match what your ambition was is sometimes the poorest advice people give.
Yeah, 100%. I like what you said about tailoring advice to the right person. I think unless you're capable of doing that, you shouldn't really be giving advice because 100%. It's too generic.
Too generic. And a lot of advice is generic. Like a lot of these podcasts are generic. Everything's generic. Hustle. Like I work hard, but I hate hustle culture. Because it's not right for most people. Most people should not be a business owner, should not go into property. Most people's personality, energy levels, emotional management is right for a job. And actually, a lot of people's isn't even fucking right for most jobs. Like, you've got to tailor your job to the way that you can respond. And that isn't me clipping their wings. That's me going, your wings are this capable. And there's the different things. If you're capable of much more, you know, we've got staff members who've gone on to start their own business, and I have no resentment at all. I'm like, you need any help, come back to me, because you are capable of that. And I've got other staff members where I'd look at them and go, if if you went and started your own business, I'd be fucking nervous for you.
Yeah.
Because I know your parameters, I know your capabilities, and I know what it takes to be a business owner.
Yeah.
95% of at least of the time it's shite.
Yeah. And I think it's when I look at those things, it's how much tolerance have you to getting punched in the face like repeatedly. If you're not able to do that, then maybe it's not for you, and that's fine.
Yeah. And most of society now doesn't like being told no.
Yeah.
We're very entitled,
Yeah.
and we expect a lot, and we get a lot, and we actually get a lot of protection as a society from everybody. Business owners aren't that well protected
Yeah.
at all. We're probably the least protected specimen out there. So if you are comfortable and you don't want to take on a lot of risk and you don't like getting punched in the face and kicked in the dick, then don't be a business owner.
Yeah. On that theme, again, most people on interviews and conversations like this ask about like the biggest wins, and I'm sure there's lots of them, and we might touch on those, but not necessarily specifics on what was a big low or something that's been really challenging, but how you dealt with it, how you came through those types of things. What are sort of your methods for coping when you do get those punches in the faces, those kicks in the dick?
I have one massive one a year at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least a year. And like massive, like big business challenging, ground shaking shit at least once a year. And that's proportional and relative to the amount of perceived risk we take, the amount of activity that we've got. The busier you are, the more likely you are to have something that's going to shake you to your core. And I think relativity and reflection helps me the most.
Yeah.
I did a task recently. I have a high performance coach as well, works a lot of Premier League football. He's a phenomenal bloke. Dan Donachie is incredible. And we did a task where it was like, when do I feel most authentic and when do I feel most inauthentic or not my true self? And most authenticity for me is around doing tasks that cost no money. It's free.
Yeah.
Like reading, walking, spending time with friends, true connection, all of that. It doesn't actually cost any money. So if I can live authentically for no money, why do I stress about the outcomes of financial circumstances?
Yeah.
And that was like a big light switch for me to go, okay, the worst case scenario is I live authentically. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
And I now have to transition away of where I'm living authentically and earn money, which is a work in progress, because a lot of my inauthenticity comes around money-making activities. I'm not comfortable. You've seen me at the prosperity events, and obviously I do it and I take that role, but it's not. It doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel comfortable for me. It's not something that's natural. But it's a role that I've sort of taken and established, and I think I always get kind of pushed to be the leader in a lot of spaces, but it doesn't feel an authentic space for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's so that was a big learning. It was just relativity, reflection, like, Dr. Pepper mindset. What's the worst that can happen? And it's very rarely that bad. Your mind has created circumstances, and now ultimately I've gone. Even relativity on the size of the fucking universe. I'm one of 8.2 billion people. What makes me so special to think that I shouldn't struggle? It's like quite arrogant, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
I just don't get it. So
my barber gave me some really good advice yesterday. It was interesting.
Better advice than I've
got. He'll listen to this. He'll be fuming. But he said two things. He said, one of them was quite generic, but it was good at the time. It was like the stuff that you think about now in 4 weeks will mean absolutely fuck all to you.
Yeah.
And he said, similar to what you mentioned there, he said, the only time you feel really anxious or nervous or worried about decisions that you've made is when you've done things that aren't authentic to you.
Yeah.
He said, if you're staying true to yourself and you believe in what you're doing, you won't feel any of that.
Yeah.
So if that methodology that you're thinking of is making you feel like that, then it's probably not authentic to you.
Yeah.
And I thought it was great advice and helped me massively. So yeah, I'm fully on board with the things that you've said. Moving on to specifically into your businesses right now, what does the landscape in 2025 look like in property?
I mean, property and the economy is in a weird place, isn't it? And obviously they all get judged hand in hand. Everybody in this country is obsessed with home ownership. Everybody is obsessed with the cost of buying your own home, what house prices are. There's so much attention on housing as a whole. And honestly, the market, when you compare it to other markets, stocks and shares, crypto, and all of that, it's turgid, slow.
Yeah.
So stable and consistent because there is a lot of focus on it, and because there is a lot of probably manipulation or influence or intervention to stop the market doing anything too tragic.
Yeah.
You know, we're still talking about the housing market crash of 2008, where it fell 18% and had recovered by 15% in 12 months. Fucking crypto can fall 18% today,
Yeah.
and people barely make a noise about it. You know, so we're spoiled in that it's a fairly stable market, but we're also ruined by the fact that there's got a lot of focus on it. So there's always movement, there's always political intervention, there's always policy. Stamp duty changes came in today, and I think the good thing for me, and the thing that I've learned through going through the financial crash, going through Brexit, going through COVID, nothing happens that quickly in property. Everyone thinks it does, and it gets massively dramatized and a load of media attention. But it's a solid, slow investment. So 2025 will be much the same as 2024. Some good, some shit, some in between, but nothing too dramatic, positively or negatively. It's just a slow burn. And that's why a lot of people don't like property, because it does take a shitload of time. That's why I do like property, because I'm like, okay, little bricks, build a legacy, buy a house today, and in 30 years, everyone will have wished they would have bought the house that I bought today in 30 years' time. So just a bit of consistency, keep adding into the stock, clear up some of the crap we've got to clear up, and yeah, boring 2025 on the property front, as usual.
What's something that's like massively overhyped in property at the minute?
Massively overhyped in property. Invest in itself, probably. As in the whole get rich quick thing just completely falls off the back of what I've just said.
Yeah.
But if anybody can get you financially free in a few months, they're a better man than me. And I'm 20 years in. Like, it takes you a few months to get responses off solicitors. Like, everything's slow. Yeah. Professional services in property is pretty fucking average right now. Is very poor. So, you know, if you think you're going to come and buy 20 houses, and you better build a really good team and have access to funds quite quickly. And so I think the pace at which everything is advertised in property, if everyone was honest about property, no one would do it, or much less people would do it. And obviously in our space, and where I said I hesitate to talk about the education space, is a lot of people have to glamorize it to sell their product. Yeah. And it's just not that glamorous. It really isn't.
Yeah, you've got to try and sex it up for it to convert, and it's not there.
Leave your job in 5 years isn't that attractive as a marketing piece, is it? But that's the average that I see for people. Yeah. They're going to leave their work in 5 years. But the alternative is stay in your job for 5 years and then stay beyond. So do a bit. It'll take you 5 years on average, from what I see, to earn enough income to replace your salary. And then the wealth can build once you're fully into the asset class. You know, if you're not spending 40 hours, 45 hours doing a job, and you're having to do property 5 hours, 10 hours a week, then the rate at which you can invest, develop, raise money, all of that absolutely fast tracks. And I see like that slow growth up until replacing salary, and then people do that. That's very common. You know, a lot of our friends, Steve and Claire, for example, they've done exactly that in the last 18 months, where Claire's left work and it's completely ramped up. But the reality is they sell you on get out of your job in a year. Minority. Yeah. Less than 5%, I'd say. Yeah. Manage that.
What's one thing, if you had to bet money, I know you're not much of a gambling man, but if you had to bet money on something dying in business, whether in property specifically or business in general, what's something that's just going to die completely this year?
Or a lot of things are under pressure because of AI.
Yeah.
You know, the whole basic solicitors, write me up a contract for this service to this person that a solicitor would have charged you 1,500 quid for, and ChatGPT does it for free in 10 minutes, basically, if that, instantly in reality. So a lot of that ancillary legal services, I think, is under real pressure. You know, people, and it should be, because they charge you a fucking lot for not very much. You know, here's a generic template that we'll use for everybody, and we're going to charge everybody $1,000 to do it just by tweaking a few words. And so I think ancillary legal services are under real challenges.
It's an industry or a sector that's been primed for innovation for a long time.
Big time.
And just never seems to get any better.
Terrible, absolutely terrible. And I don't even understand how it can be so bad because, like I said, it's largely uniform. If I'm a small business in the UK who wants to write a contract up, and you're a small business, the 95% of that contract is going to be the same thing.
Yeah.
You're going to tweak based on the services that we offer, and that is it. So, how it's been so bad, so slow, so expensive for so long, I don't really understand. So, yeah, I'm quite happy with that. I think that needed to happen. I think AI could really put a lot of people in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Actively, and I've only really started to embrace it. But on a marketing level, you go build me a marketing program for this service at this price. These are my target audience, and it spits out 50 tasks for you to do.
Yeah.
And a marketing manager might come in on 40, 50 grand a year, and that's a month of his work is building that. It's done instantly for you.
Yeah.
So I think there are a lot of challenges for people who have probably gotten away with dragging tasks out.
Yeah.
Because you can't drag it out anymore.
No.
You've got to deliver quicker, and I think churn is probably going to be quite a bit bigger. Because I sit there now going, I've now got you a marketing plan.
Yeah.
ChatGPT did it for me. I don't need to pay you $4,000 this month to do me that marketing plan. You deliver it, and it's going to be more about performance reporting, which is fantastic.
Yeah,
like,
it keeps people accountable.
100%.
Yeah.
Here's the plan. If you want to change anything, let me know, but deliver it and tell me how it's doing. And then, very quickly, I'm now getting results and I'm getting responses, and you're giving me reports and all of that. So, yeah, I don't think it's going to kill that role, but it's going to improve the role.
It brings quality up to a median level.
Yeah.
Because everyone's got access to the same thing.
Yeah.
You as a business owner, me as the marketing manager.
Yeah.
So we're all singing off a similar hymn sheet in terms of what the format should be. Because marketing's always, especially digital, has always been like this dark art.
Yeah.
Where business owners were kind of going into it as either naive or like uninformed buyers. Yeah. So they were like, oh, I don't know how it works, but I'll just trust that person. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that everyone went out maliciously to just take the piss, but it just was a dark art, and it meant that people could, take the time, put that check in every month, put that bill in every month, and kind of get away with it.
Well, the answer was always spend more money.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not getting enough, spend more money. And I'm going, I will spend unlimited amounts, but show me that I'm getting something, and then I can proportionalize.
I've had no leads, but the answer spend more doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And like, no, there's something principally wrong here. Yeah. So I do think it's leveled up that industry as well. But I think you'd sit here with 100 different people in different industries, and they would give you a way that AI is going to improve and influence their industry. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I do think that it's really going to challenge our entitled, lazy culture at the core.
I spoke to a mate yesterday who is working in AI and in virtual reality. He has put customer service agents into Liverpool One for directions, and replaced, the little foyers where you had someone sat there saying, Top Shop's that way. It's an AI person. It's fed with all of the information. You go in, it's there 24/7. It's never on. It never has a sick day. And you can go in Liverpool One and see it, and you ask, I can't remember what the name of the person was there. Oh, Liv.
Right.
Liv. You ask Liv, where's Top Shop, and she'll show you exactly where it is, pull a map up, and this, that, and the other. I was like, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that's the first step of what that will be.
People replacement. Yeah, 100%.
Crazy. Danny, we're wrapping up. Thanks so much for your time. Just a couple of quick fire questions, and then I'll let you go. If you had to start all over again tomorrow, what would be your methodology? How would you go about it?
Start knowing what I know now, or start
you got all your knowledge still. What's the first thing you'd do?
Raise money quickly. No. Comfortable with debt. It took too long to raise money and get comfortable with using other people's money or leveraging debt. Let everyone else take the risk. Let everyone else invest. Scale comes from leverage, 100%.
I know you're a big fan of the Stoics. If someone's in one of those positions in their life at the minute where they are struggling, they are under the cosh a little bit, what's a piece of advice that you think will help them to move through that challenge?
Find your next win, no matter how small. Just focus on the next win that you're going to get, you're able to get, and reflect and be grateful for having it. So whenever I'm in a struggle space, it's okay, what win can I get next? And win generates win generates win, and before you know it, you're in a win cycle and it's compounding.
Yeah.
And if you do get your next loss, then just take some time to reflect and appreciate that it probably wasn't as bad as you're making it in your head. Like I've literally written down in my books, my daily sort of gratitude levels this week that like you can literally take everything from me. If I started again today, I'd be excited that I had the opportunity to start again, because I miss that entry level of excitement where the little wins are exciting. So, you know, a bit of reflection there that actually I've got something to be excited about there. And taking everything financially from me, you can't take what I know from me and what my abilities are and what I've done historically. Like, there's evidence that I can do it again. So I think, yeah, get your next win is the biggest thing I'd say.
Brilliant. Most people who watch this will already know you, but if they don't, where can they find you?
Just Danny Inman Property does what it says on the tin, on everything on socials, basically. If you search Danny Inman Property, it'll come up.
Brilliant. Well, that was the first episode of, I forgot my name in my own podcast, A Business Space. That was the first episode of A Business Space. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be releasing episodes every week. Danny, thanks so much for joining us, and I'll see you again on the next one. Take care. Bye.